Hi, everyone. Kay Bruckner here today with Dr. Tom Phelan, author and creator of 123 Magic and the author of The Manager Mom Epidemic. Dr. Phelan, welcome.
Hello, Kay.
How are you today? We're a little late. Usually we do these in the morning, and we had some technical difficulties this morning, but we figured it out now. So hopefully we'll not have any more troubles.
One of us figured it out, and it probably wasn't me.
I take all the credit. So today we are talking about, speaking of such nice compliments there, we are talking about the power of praise. Dr. Phelan, you say in the book that a lot of parents are underutilizing praise as a tool. Can you talk to us a little bit about why that is?
Yeah, praise is really well, in one sense, it's a very easy thing to do because all you have to do is say it. In another sense, there's kind of a technology to it that we'll talk about a little bit, but you have to know how you're doing it. But I think the biggest thing is that as human beings, we have I would say I don't want to make anybody feel guilty. This is just the way we're built. But when we're angry, we tend to give verbal feedback. And when we're happy with what people are doing, we tend to shut up. And it's just the way we're built. So anger is a motivator to do something. It's a motivator to say something. And so people often get the impression that we're more upset and irritated than we really are because we talk when we're angry, and when we're happy, we just keep quiet. So I think that's the biggest reason that praise is not utilized as much as it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know, for me as a parent with two young children, if they're playing quietly and nicely together, I'm like, okay, don't say anything. Maybe they'll keep playing, So absolutely that I see that play out in our house a lot. So when should parents be using praise with their kids?
Well, you want to do it when you do feel happy with something that's happening, or your child is doing something, when they're doing some of the routines that you hope and expect that they would do, like getting ready for bed, or eating, or getting up and out in the morning, or doing their homework, or whatever. Especially with the what we in 123 Magic we call the start behavior problems. The positive things you want them to do. That's the time to reinforce their doing that. So you have to, there's a book called Catch 'em Being Good. It's a good book, and it means when the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing, now's the time to talk and say something about it and recognize it. And especially with little kids, a few well-placed comments can go a long way toward helping solidify that kind of behavior of theirs into habitually doing the positive things that we want them to.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk to us a little bit about what this sounds like at home. What kinds of words, what kinds of tone should we be using when we praise kids?
Yeah. Well, here's what you want to do. If the kids are like under 7 or 8, you can do what I call a gooey, syrupy praise. You can do the good job, with a 3-year-old. And it's good. People make fun of good job. Well, you don't say that to a 14-year-old, but you say it to a 3-year-old, and that's okay. It's not overusing praise. Or I'm really proud of you for doing that. That homework was really hard, and yet you stuck it through all the way to the end. That's more business-like praise. So you got an adolescent, and they're doing their homework, and you go up and say, I see you're at it again. That's great. That's business-like praise. And that's what it sounds like. So some people you use gooey, syrupy, some people you use the more business-like stuff.
And you can kind of tell when the gooey syrupy isn't working for a kid, right? They kind of do that, whatever, mom.
That's right. And that's a good point, because if you get the eye rolling, which you do with the teens some of the time, that means you're overdoing it, and you'll irritate them, and your praise will have the reverse effect of what you want. So and some kids are gooey kids, and some kids are business-like kids even when they're 5. So you have to kind of keep an eye on it.
Absolutely. So you mentioned overusing praise. What would you say to someone who's concerned about overpraising their kid?
Yeah, I'd say, well, you're in the minority of parents, first of all. But if you're concerned about overpraising, you're probably doing a lot of things right in terms of praising. And the main thing is you don't want to praise every single thing that they do, and you don't necessarily have to do that. And you certainly want to avoid the, giving feedback when you're angry, kind of a thing. But in our country, there's the last number of years, there's been a concern about overpraising kids. And I don't know that I agree with it totally. I think the biggest concern isn't overpraising. It's like saying things that aren't really concerned. Like if the child, does something in athletics or whatever, and you say, wow, great job. And all they did was throw the ball to the first baseman. We overdo it that way some of the time. And you people saying, great job, when really it wasn't. It was an ordinary behavior. You could use business-like praise for that kind of thing. But we turn on the syrup, I think, too much, more than the frequency.
Got it. So the concern with overpraising is actually not frequency of praise. It is the way that it is delivered, and how that's interpreted by the child.
Yeah.
Okay, terrific. So, you talked a little bit about how this incorporates with the 1, 2, 3 Magic program, for instance, with START behaviors. So kind of walk us through when you might praise a kid who you are, say, trying to get to do their homework on their own.
Yeah. Well, what you want to do is you want to look at what are the behaviors that you want. And maybe you're using charting or something else, but what's the first behavior you want for homework? If parents think about it, the first behavior you want with homework is for the child to remember to do it at the appropriate time on their own. And so you tell them that. You say, what I want you to do is to remember 4 o'clock is homework time. I want you to remember to do it on your own. And if they do at 4 o'clock, then you're going to praise that. And you may have a deal that says at 5 after 4, you're going to intervene if they haven't done anything. Then you want them to sustain the homework for appropriate period of time. Six-year-olds can last about 10 minutes, 7-year-olds, 20 minutes, 8-year-olds, it goes up about 10 minutes per year. So if now they started it on their own, you praise that. Then they're sustaining it and say, wow, you've been working for a while. This is pretty hard. And then if they show it to you, you can say, well, it looks, I think you did a pretty good job. This one looks right. This one looks right. And you use what we call the PNP routine sometimes with things like homework is positive, feedback negative if absolutely necessary, and then you wrap it up with positive. It's kind of a sandwich approach to praising them.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of approaches and strategies, in the book, in chapter 12, I believe, you talk about ways to make praise more effective and ways that it can actually help boost kids' self-esteem. What are some of those ways?
Well, 2 of my favorites are number 1, unexpected praise. So your son's up doing his homework, but and he cut the grass. It's a day in May or something. And he cut the grass before. You go to the bottom of the stairs. You say, "Hey, Jason." He says, "What?" He's a little worried. He doesn't know what you're going to say. "Did I tell you what a great job you did on the yard today?" That's unexpected, and it'll have more impact because he was worried you might be going to say something critical. The other thing is to praise in front of other people. We have a good example in the video of this, a mom who's praising her daughter for her approach in a soccer game. The mom says, you should have seen Belinda out there in the game today. The other kids never knew what hit them.
Fantastic. So, we talked at the beginning how it's tough for parents to remember to do this. We're not naturally inclined to remember to praise when we're happy with someone's behavior. What are some strategies that parents can use to remember to use praise as a positive parenting strategy?
Well, I'll tell you one that teachers use some of the time. They have little plastic tokens. This is just one way to do it, but you can have little plastic tokens. Say you put 10 of them in your pocket, in your right-hand pocket. And what you do during the class is you take one out. Your goal is to get all 10 tokens over to the other pocket before the end of class. And so when the child does something, you praise them, you take one token out, you put it in the other pocket, does something else, you praise them, you take one out and put it in the other pocket. The other thing you can do is you can set your cell phone for an hour or an hour and a half or something like that and have it just buzz you. And you say, have I said anything positive to anybody in the last hour and a half? And some parents say, well, my kids never do anything that's worth mentioning anyway. And that's rarely true. It's just not the case. So So anyway, but there's a million gimmicks, especially in an age of electronics and technology like we have now. You can come up with a bazillion ideas for how to give yourself a friendly kick in the pants.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as far as finding things that are praiseworthy, right? Like, did they say something nice? Did they get along with a sibling? Did they put their cup in the dishwasher like they were supposed to? I know that just from personal experience, when you start trying to intentionally incorporate praise more, it can be hard to figure out like what those things are. So just finding even the littlest things and not going over the top about them, but finding very small things that you can kind of latch onto, and then it becomes easier, I think, to spot the good behaviors, right?
I think so. And I think along with this whole conversation right here is one of the best things you can do as a parent is remember, this is going to sound funny, but remember to praise yourself or to acknowledge the good or courageous or enduring things that you do in the course of the day. There's a book that was popular a long time ago, How to Be Your Own Best Friend. And I'm not talking about being sappy about it. I'm just talking about recognizing things that you do in life that may be difficult for you to do, but they are significant achievements. And do that with yourself, you'll be more likely to do it with your kids.
It's a great point. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Phelan. This has been terrific. If you know somebody who needs to hear this, please feel free to share this video or tag them in the comments. And if you're not already, head on over to 123magic.com and get signed up for our weekly newsletter where we send out parenting videos, tips, downloadables, and more. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.